Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Taku David, and you are on the Minted Podcast, the podcast where I speak to interesting minds from around the world. And today I'm joined by Carol White, a lady who I've had the luck to encounter in my journeys in my career, my early career, and who's really been a voice of reason, a voice of wisdom, and a voice of insight into the world of marketing. Carol, it's a pleasure to meet you and have you on the program today.
Thank you.
Yes, Carol. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we really want to get into the meat of the conversation. But just to give a little bit of context as to who you are, who is Carol, what has she done, and what's your claim to fame?
Claim to fame. Claim to fame is walking a long, winding road from being a girl in Bulawayo, born in Bulawayo. Parents had emigrated from South Africa in the 50s, escaping the cold Johannesburg weather, and built a life in Bulawayo and became really firmly entrenched in the country. So a love for the bush, a love for the countryside, which I think that I got from my school days and my early upbringing, and going to schools in Bulawayo, and then in my 20s moving to Harare, and I had started pursuing a career in banking, because back in those days O levels didn't get you very far, and my parents didn't have the money for uni, and nor were they keen on me doing A levels. And today, when I see the kids that are like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I want to, and they have every single opportunity, I want to smack them because I never had that opportunity. And now they don't realize how privileged they are when parents today really put education at the top of the list. And my mother said at 16, I got a job in Cuthbert's and Elof Street. I walked the whole day. My mother said, don't come home until you have got a job. And she said, and I'm saying that to you, you leave school and you go and get a job. And in those days, in Zimbabwe and Rhodesia in those days, with O levels, you could get a job with the post office and be a teacher, but that meant going to TTC, 3-year course, or you could be a hairdresser. And there was no ways I wanted to do any of those. And luckily, Providence, as always, I was introduced into the bank, and I was not a management trainee like the A-level and M-level students. I came in at the bottom of the ranks. And I learned, and I loved from those days working with machines and ledger machines, etc. So today my son laughs at me. I love gadgets. I'm quite gadgety. I'm wanting to explore and find gadgets. So I worked my way up in the bank, and in those days there was the Liberation War going on, and so the men were in and out of call-ups. And then they had to allow women to sign as a signatory, and to also turn the lock on the safes. And at the age of 21, my claim to fame, the thing that excites me the most out of so many things that I've done, is that I got my A grade at 21. Being managing director of Meikles Hospitality, the first woman to be appointed, that was 7 years ago, in a really patriarchal company. No, that didn't float my boat. Being managing director of DHL in Zambia, great, nice, but gosh, it came with so much responsibility. It wasn't like, oh my goodness, I've arrived. But at 21, and that's why I think Prosper Takunda, I love working with people, young people, because I know at 21, I had bright, shiny eyes. I wanted to go and conquer the world. I was standing there in Bulawayo and saying, I don't want to have a life like my parents. I want adventure. I want excitement. I want to go and explore. I want to be somebody. And, my dad worked for one company for 45 years, for Triggers. and he took the same route along Jacaranda Avenue, that road, Old Falls Road. I can't think of the other road, up to Kami area, Kami Road. The same road for 45 years. Oh my God.
I can't.
Dog, sorry.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want that kind of life for me. And I think there were no mentors or people that were there to take you by the hand and say, you know what, you can do this. You had to have your own self. You have to have your own self motivation. Parents and certainly my parents were like, look, go and do your thing, which is great in a way because they were not prescribing. And I also rather liked the idea of being a librarian. And my mother said, oh, no, you're not going to enjoy that. Just, go. So the bank was great because people. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I see kids today, I call them kids, youngsters, who want to go and do something wild and different, and their parents want them to go and do business school at university to have something, very noble. But maybe in my day, we were lucky just to be free falling. So from there, Harare, and then tourism, business, hospitality was the next thing. Worked at the different hotels, Sheraton. I always wanted to work at that golden Benson and Hedges building. And from the minute I stepped foot, which was my early 30s, into hospitality, that was my thing. I love people. I like organizing. I like show business. I like to curate experiences. And that's why I'm totally intolerant of people that do not deliver service. And I will call them out, particularly in Zimbabwe. I don't want us to drop our standards. We talked about it earlier. You don't and shouldn't have to be somebody for anybody to take notice and do what they should be doing. Too many shortcuts in work these days. And I think that we need to adhere to benchmarks. And I'm not sure that in today's world, with all our tech, with my wonderful friend ChatGPT, who I love, I'm not sure that we are holding ourselves accountable. AI is holding themselves accountable, but we are becoming a little bit like, oh, lost babies. Oh, I don't know really what's going to happen to me. Well, go and make yourself something. And at my age and stage, after working through the ranks in hotels and going from sales and marketing up into senior management, and then again in the year 2000 during the farm invasions, I switched from hospitality to DHL logistics because there was no business in the year 2000 onwards for a while those years had impact on the market. So I was really sad to go into DHL, and I was like, oh no, it's not fair. I'm a hotelier. I want to work in hotels. However, the 9 years that I worked at DHL, looking after commercial in Central Africa, being GM in Zim, being managing director in Zambia, I learned what no hospitality business would have taught me about processes, about logistics.
Yeah.
About supply chain.
Carol, I think you've drawn out, an amazing picture of a beautiful career and, just a spirit of adventure coming up. And it's quite fascinating to me that, you worked in banking, you went into hospitality, and then you went into logistics. And this is across, different countries. This is Zimbabwe, this is Zambia, this is Botswana as well, I understand. You were with the Cresta.
Yes.
Botswana. And what do you think it is about you that's allowed you to create value across these different industries and in different countries as well? It's not just, you're not going to Trekkers every day for 41 years. You really have to be adaptable. So what's really the thing about you? What's your magic?
You know what? I think it's open mind, open heart. You have to allow yourself to be led, and you have to be fascinated and curious and want to learn. Because of course it wasn't easy going to work in Zambia. And I looked after Angola, Mozambique, Malawi, Zambia, just say Botswana, Namibia. And all of those countries were very different. However, there's always a common denominator. And so my character, on one side, I'm really organized, I'm structured. But on the other side, I like adventure. My friend Joanna Godza, she always says to me, why don't you go and work in a nursery school? You want everybody to be like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old every day. You want, fun and excitement. So I think it's that ability just to explore. Maybe because in Bulawayo, we in those days we had quite a little boxed life.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get out of that box and say, hey, what's out there?
Well, that's great to hear. And now, obviously coming more to the now, you like myself have a passion for Zimbabwe, have a passion for young people, have a passion for development. And what would you say is really the state of young people in our country? We have a lot of young people listening to the program. And what would you say is the state of young people and the opportunities for young people in Zimbabwe?
Look, I think a lot of people are always looking for the US dollar, and they rush out, and particularly in hospitality and the medical field, and they go out of the country, and then they realize that the culture wherever you go is not like Zimbabwe. And yes, it's good to go and grow and have exposure, because perhaps what we don't have enough of is exposure for the young people, or and en masse. So we need to have exposure, but to bring what you learn and bring it back into Zimbabwe. So I think that a lot of people realize that working 2 jobs in the UK or in America or wherever they go to is not so fun. And there's the family back home that think they're now rich because they've gone away, and you've got to pay your black tax, and so everybody wants your Adidas shoes and your baseball cap from Manchester United. So it creates that mismatch. So I think that if we could have young people staying perhaps in their late 20s, go out, go and explore, come back in your late 20s and 30s, and then come and establish things and see where the gap is. There's loads of gaps. I think that we've become hustlers, and by default, people all know how to hustle. At Mbari Market, they turn over $1 million a day, apparently. Nobody goes hungry. Everybody earns enough money, whether it's $5 or $10, to go and have nyama, a little bit of nyama, if it's a roadrunner chicken, and veggies, and they can feed their family of 7 or 8 or 10 people with everyone else coming in. So, sorry, my dog, I don't know if she wants to give us a
Mine
little
was
hug.
just here as well now. So I think they sense each other.
And she's quiet the whole day until we hear. So I think that for young people, there isn't enough backup. There isn't a job market like there used to be 20, 30 years ago. So people are going into gold mining, panning, and some going back into agriculture. But I think that if you look, and if you allow the flow to happen, who knows? We don't know what our next step exactly is. So let it be that you see that you can go and grow cabbages, or that you can be the person marketing the cabbages, or you can be the person that has the truck that carries the cabbages. So I quite like it that Zim is like Nigeria. 75-80% entrepreneurs hustling. There's something I like about it. I like it that it's not all this, we've got to have a white collar job and we've got to be a lawyer and a doctor and that's changing, because as you know very well, all these university degrees are great for, again, expanding your mind, but you need to work.
That's very true.
I would like to see a fashion coming here like it is in certainly in the UK, encouraging youngsters to have trades. Go and be a plumber, because AI cannot be a plumber.
Carol, I'm going to broach on a very interesting, maybe even controversial topic, and maybe you're the right person to speak to this about. And we're speaking about entrepreneurship. And it seems like what you're talking about, everyone has grasped this concept, except for Black Zimbabweans, right? And I don't know, but it seems to me that the white Zimbabweans or the white Africans have been very good at identifying what are the market opportunities in Africa, and have sort of turned away from these white collar jobs or these office jobs and have really applied into agriculture, applied into engineering, mechanics, trades. So what can we learn, and what is it about that thinking that we can adapt in the way we apply solutions as Africans in Africa and in Zimbabwe in particular?
Secunda, I think it goes back to family again. I think that many families struggled to put kids through school, and if they didn't struggle, they've been self-made and they've got a PhD or they've had a top job wherever, and they have that desire that their children need to have education.
Should be a doctor, should be a lawyer.
Whereas it's changed. Whereas in the white community, the parents, just like mine, will say, no, you're not bright enough to go and you're not bright enough. And the kids are also saying, I am not going to go and study. Whereas the Indian kids and certainly the Black kids, and funny enough, the Jewish kids, because they've always had to be on the move, the marginalized communities have had to use their education so that they can be mobile, you can be relevant wherever. So I think that the Black people that I know in their 40s and early 50s who have lived abroad, they come back on holiday here and they see the possibilities. So maybe a lot of coaching has to happen, and maybe they're going to be different with their children. It starts with the family. And I think the youngsters are fed this dream that if you do well, you're going to be somebody. Maybe my parents were just so blunt. You ain't going to be somebody. Go out and do some work.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I guess it's a different approach to parenting, and it's a different approach to seeing the world and applying the world. Speaking of parenting, you yourself are a parent, and your son is an entrepreneur. How is it raising an entrepreneur? How is it raising a kid or a person who says, I'm not going to go and follow the beaten path. I'm going to take my own route and try something different. Is it something that many families don't encourage it? Many families encourage it. How did you go about it, and how did you deal with the challenge of your fears about the risk that your son would be taking?
It's so funny. As you know, my ex-husband and I adopted a Black child when he was 3. And so he grew up in this white environment. He had been left by his mum, and the mum had run away, I think, because the dad wasn't helping look after him. And the dad died shortly afterwards, and his grandmother took him on, and her daughter and the nephews and grandchildren's maternal grandmother said, hey, there's another mouse to feed. It's hard enough. So Amboya Dorcas brought him to us, and she was hiding him because, back in those days, it was, oh my goodness, you only allowed one person in the workers' quarters, which was not my rule, and I didn't care. So the minute I set eyes on Meshek, I fell in love with him. And so then fast forward to him now leaving high school. He had a scholarship to go to America to do sports management, and he refused. And he said, I'm not doing it. And, I had this idea, I have a black son, he's going to be the next Kofi Annan. He's going to be at the United Nations.
Big dreams, big dreams.
And here he's telling me I'm going to go and work with my dad doing marketing, and his dad, my ex-husband, is just the best marketing entrepreneur, charismatic person. So it was very good for Mesh to do that. But at the time, for me, that was like outrageous. And I was furious. And only recently, Mesh said to me, you know why I didn't want to go to America? Because they were killing black people. I said, Mesh, how can you say they were killing black people? And he said, but there was all that sort of anti-black thing going on, and I don't know what movies he was watching when he was a youngster. So it's hard to channel your children in the way you want them to be. And he's followed his own path, and he has a very, very successful little vibrant entrepreneurial business called the Phone Doc in downtown Lanarkshire in Scotland. And he said, you know what, Mum, we phoned the one day when he, with the help of his wife at the time, when they just got married, and she really encouraged him, let's, set up your own shop. And he said, can you believe this little kid from Tafara is now in mainstream street in Scotland, and everybody loves him because he's got big eyes like you. So he's got big eyes, and he's bright and shiny, and my little grandchildren are the same. So you can only be there to be the fallback. And there were the years when he went overseas, and he was becoming too spoiled by by the fact that it was his dad, there was me, and then there was his dad's wife, and so he could bounce from each of us. He became a little bit of a spoiled brat, and in this community. And so I said, no, you're going to go overseas, and you're going to see what it's like to go and figure out how you earn your own money. And he's done well, and he wouldn't particularly want to come back to Zim because he likes the structure there.
Yeah.
My daughter-in-law would love to come back because there's gogos and help here. And she misses Bulawayo, her father's in Bulawayo. And so it's very difficult. What do I want for me? What do I want for my child? What do I want for my grandchildren? I want my grandchildren to walk barefoot. I want them to get on bikes and go down roads, riding their bikes like Mish and Hattie used to do, and be free. And they're not. They've got their sneakers on and their snow hats, and Scotland's not the warmest of places.
You got to be watching everywhere, making sure they're safe. There's no kidnappers or anything like that. Yeah.
Exactly. And you see, this is it, is that whole kidnapper thing going on. And I mean, in my time, going on my bicycle, and in Mish's time and his contemporaries, being on your bike and getting the heck out of the house was just the greatest fun.
Yeah.
So how the world has changed. And so parenting, you have to listen, just like in business. Is it any different? Just about managing yourself, managing young people, managing people older, being at the stage I am at, where I am, I'm at the end of a corporate career. I don't want to play that game, and I want to be with the Gen Zs, and I want to be with people who want to have coaching, and I just want to make a difference and make an impact. Exactly how? It will unfold like it's done my whole life.
I love that. I love that. Carol, we're unfortunately running out of time, and I've just enjoyed picking your brain, and I think I could sit and talk to you for hours because you've got such a wealth of experiences, and just a different way of looking at life. But I'm very big on pictures, mental pictures, mental images, and what type of Zimbabwe would you like to see, you know, before God says lights out? You know, what do you want to see?
You know, I was just listening to that song, The Impossible Dream, and Josh Kurban was singing it, but it was done by, I can't remember who back in the day. And, you know, I loved that song from the time I was 20. And my quest is about everybody having a chance. If everybody has a fair chance, and then you do with it what you need to do with it. And I would love older people to have pensions. I would love people not to have to struggle. So a little bit more of sharing the wealth. Zimbabwe has got everything. We've got the climate. We've got the minerals. We need a whole injection of fairness. And, you know, the young people are coming back to this country and getting involved in agriculture and building up places like Marandera and Beatrice and getting on with it. So I don't wait for utopia. I believe that our utopia is right here this minute. This moment with you, we cannot repeat it. It's stuck in this time frame. So if we don't embrace this moment, even if manna fell from heaven, would we see it? I think Zimbabweans are very ready. Doggy's gonna get no bones for tonight. It's we have to be able to recognize it. If things were an even keel, would we appreciate it? Would we know it if we saw it? Are we ready for it? I don't know. Are we ready for it? Are we ready for change? Are we changing?
Wow.
What are we doing? I don't wait. Yeah, I don't wait for the government of this country in Zimbabwe or the governments in Africa or the governments in the rest of the world to make a difference to my life.